When it comes to everything fantasy football, you have to ask one question. Don't you deserve a fighting chance? And now, welcome to Fighting Chance Live with your hosts, Kevin Tompkins and Scott Fishbowl 9 winner, Gary Haddow.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's just another Matic Monday here on Fighting Chance Live. I'm Kevin Tompkins of FightingChanceFantasy.com. To my right on the screen, we have the beautiful, talented, vivacious Gary Haddow. Gary, my friend, how you doing?
Never had someone call me vivacious three times in a row.
Well, it's because I said it to Liz, and now I really like that word, to Liz Loza.
It's a good word.
It's a beautiful word. It's a vivacious word.
I'm in good company if I'm with Liz.
Damn skit. Yeah, you're goddamn right about that. And Petey, we are back with you. I'm not sick of seeing your mug, so you must be doing something right. How you doing, my friend?
This one or just this one?
I think we're good with either.
That was the best dad joke ever.
I know, right? Look, it's 10 o'clock my time. I need to be a little jacked up on coffee right now. So
fair enough.
Two kids will do that.
Well, for those of you living under a rock, we were supposed to do risers and fallers on what day? I didn't know day. It's been a long day. Was it Friday?
That was Friday.
It was Friday because we bumped it.
It was Friday.
So it's supposed to be Friday. So we're going to do the Fallers episode today. So a little bonus FCL here. So why don't we just hop right into it? What do you think, Gary?
Yeah, we'll jump in. If you need to find Petey, he's at Petey Stitz, and you can find all of us at Fighting Chance Fantasy, except for me because I don't write too much anymore. But these two do, and they're fantastic. So check out their articles.
Oh, aren't you doing the waiver call?
I already told Drake and Steve I have no interest in doing any writing this year. I got enough writing I have to do for work.
Lazy son. I'm just kidding. It's all good, man. Well, yeah, let's get into some fallers here. We struck the positive chord on Friday, but now we're gonna just shit on everybody here today. So that sounds good to me. Not gonna lie. Yeah. Who wants to start this one off? I'm gonna put my finger on my nose. It's either one of you two.
I'll just start out because my guy is Carson Wentz. He's just falling. I think a lot of this is just going to tie into news. That's why it's pointless to go through a lot of the news with these guys. But I mean, Carson Wentz's offense is falling apart, and I have defended Wentz given that he had an offense that fell apart last year. And I think the two biggest losses to Carson Wentz are actually the offensive line. So we got Brandon Brooks. He is out. I think it was an ACL. And then Andre Dillard is out with, I think it was an Achilles. And they're both done. And so that goes his left tackle and his right tackle, both of his tackles, I think. And that was a big part of their success. They had an awesome offensive line last year. And yes, they've had injuries before and whatnot, but that's a really hard thing to overcome. And I think every season right now we're hyped on players. And usually at week 8 or week 16, in hindsight, we're always like, man, we should have followed the offensive line play. Look what happened to Baker last year. Offensive line play was terrible. That offense just dipped. And then on top of that, Jalen Reagor, he hurt his shoulder. He's out about 4 weeks. Hopefully that's it. Nothing more than that. They already had Alshon that was going to be out, probably going to be on the PUP. Although positive news for once that maybe he could get back at the end of September, early October, which is better than expected. And Dallas Goedert hurt his thumb. He'll be back. No big deal. But I mean, just they're all falling. And then even Miles Sanders has a hammy issue, as I'm sure we'll be talking about later. All of that being said, Carson is a great QB. Just you have to know going into your league that if you're going to take Carson, you have to back him up with somebody, and it might be a higher pick than you had originally hoped it would be. But my guess is that they'll figure it out. They'll be ready to go come, by the back half of the year. They still made playoffs last year. They're going to be a good team because they have a good coach and they have a good talent on the roster, but still makes me pretty damn nervous.
It's funny because not too long ago I saw just a small article about how Carson Wentz should be like the guy for fantasy this year. And 3 weeks later, if that, here we are. I'm like, no, that didn't age well. But no, I totally agree with everything you said there, Gary.
Yeah, definitely.
See, I'm still okay with Carson Wentz, but yeah, you're going to have to back him up with somebody. At least give yourself an out or give yourself a contingency plan. They did sign Peters, and they're going to kick him inside to guard Jason Peters, who obviously has been a long time left tackle. He may not have the never really known for his speed, but at least he's a sizable guy that has continuity with the guys that are there. That you can kick inside. So that helps mitigate some of that loss on the offensive line. And then we've seen Carson Wentz, with, Ertz and Goddard and just the cast of characters, and he still threw for over 4,000 yards. Yep. So I'm not fading him a lot, but I haven't really been super high on him to begin with, but I think he has a place in your lineup, certainly on your roster, and he can start. He's matchup dependent for me. 27 touchdowns, 4,000 yards with the crap that he had last year, throwing a Greg Ward, Arcega-Whiteside. He might have John Hightower play a bigger role this year. So we'll see what happens. And it's a partially torn labrum for Jalen Reagor, so we might see him. I'd probably give it a week 3, week 4 timetable. And that's, I'd say that's stretching it a little bit because we're talking about a 4-week real world injury. Might miss 1 or 2 weeks, see how he feels week 3, probably be questionable, but out, and then should be good to go week 4, week 5. So he shouldn't miss too much of the season, but that's time that he's not going to be able to gain that game speed rapport with Carson Wentz. So it's certainly going to affect him. I was big on Jalen Reagor. I was drafting him everywhere I could. That's a big loss for the Eagles. Somebody they were clearly depending on the outside with all the guys that they know they're hoping that they can avoid that injury bug. So it's tough, but I really like, Carson Wentz as a matchup dependent streamer. But I'm not going to just draft him as my one quarterback. I think that's too dicey of a proposition.
For sure. All right. Who wants to go next?
All right. Well,
all right. Oh, you know what? I'm going to defer to you, Petey.
Next time I'll call on one of you.
Thank you. That's what we need to do. Just, point and shoot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel bad, Gary, because I'm going to go from like 100% agreeing with you and us being friends to now you hating me because my guy is Jimmy Grapes.
Jimmy Grapes? I've never heard that before. Grapes because he just gets better with age?
No,
Grapes because he has the stones to make this.
Because he just gets drunk when
you... That's a shout out. It's a shout out to Howard Bender. He calls him that on the show. I loved it. I refer to it as it all the time. So... but yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo, I am fading because pretty much similarly with what we just talked about with the Eagles, just the injury bug. Aside from Kittle, we saw Ayuk is now out. Jalen Hurd is out. Deebo Samuel, they're saying that he could be on the better side of the timetable that they were giving him with the Jones fracture, but that's still very risky. That's an injury that some guys do well with, some guys don't, and it can kind of come back to bite you at any given time. So, right now we've got Kendrick Bourne, who I did like last year. I mean, as a red zone target, Garoppolo found him 4 times, I think, maybe 5 in the last few games of the season. So, definitely a good late round flyer there. But anyway, getting back to Garoppolo, I don't know. He's not one. I mean, if I'm at the very end of my draft in a 1 QB league, if he happens to be there round 14, okay. But Derek Carr had similar numbers last season, and he's going undrafted. So I don't know what's popping out for Garoppolo versus a guy like Derek Carr. I mean, we all know the situation there, but I'm just making that comparison. All right, you're ready to bite my head off, so I'm just gonna let you unleash on me.
I'm not gonna bite your head off because I think it's a low risk proposition to say that the QB 17 going off the board is somebody that's gonna fade. honestly, like Debo's going to be back. Ayuk's going to be back. It was a hamstring. Kittle is just out. There's no issue. They had an MRI, and it's just tightness. I mean, the entire team right now. Fred Warner's now on COVID list, and even like Bosa is out right now. All of that come September, they're gonna tear up this league, and I think, unlike you comparing him to Grapes, I mean, I can see it because he's just going to get better with time and with age. Unlike your take, which is just going to crash and burn as the season goes. I still maintain dark horse MVP. My top two choices outside of like the normal expected ones would be Jimmy G or Josh Allen. And both of those guys could obviously shit the bed really bad. But on the flip side, Jimmy G has a possibility. I won't go on my rant other than to say, do a quick pass, let those guys take it to the house. You still get those passing yards.
So
I hate you. I love you.
So I'm a man. I'm torn between two countries here.
Yeah.
Because I get both sides. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo, they're going to operate through the run game. Sure. So that's going to cap some of the upside. But I think Jimmy Garoppolo is as safe as they come in the quarterbacks at his tier. If I need a second quarterback, especially in a super flex league, that's not going to kill you and that has an elite target like George Kittle, I'm going to take Jimmy Garoppolo. Deebo Samuel's going to be back. He finds a way to do what he has to do, and he puts up stats. He's very sneaky in that way. And then we're also talking about he's on year 2 on his surgical repair knee. He's going to feel more comfortable on it. He's going to be able to do a little bit more on that. So that all those things together, he's not in my top 12. I think it's a stretch to maybe everybody but Gary. But
he's out of my top 12. I just expect him to finish there.
I get it. Come on. You got put him in the top 12. Put the money where your mouth is.
There's no reason to. I can get him so much later.
God damn it, Gary. You non-commit. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah. So he's I think, where do I have him? I want to say he's in my 16?
I think I last saw you at 14 or 15.
17. That's, yeah. I've got him above Goff. I've got him above Burrow. I've got him above Minshew. I just think he's much safer than all of those options. I just think I've got Daniel Jones ahead of him, and I'm looking at the totality of the offense that I think he's just got a little bit more ceiling and a little bit more run equity there. But yeah, as far as quarterbacks in that range, you could argue the downside of Goff. You could argue the downside of Burrow too, because A, you've got an adjustment to the NFL. B, you might not have AJ Green if he gets hurt, and then where do you go from there in potential negative game scripts? I get it, but Garoppolo, I'd say, is fairly safe being the beneficiary of positive game script.
Dude, Kinlaw's going to come in and step in, and everyone's going to be like, oh, wait, their defensive line is even better because Nick Bosa is going up against Trent Williams, who's going to come out as the best left tackle this year. Iron sharpens iron. I don't care how cliche it is going to happen. And anyway, we'll move on.
Hey, Gary, real quick, throw out a stat line. What do you think Garoppolo is going to get? Just off the top of your head, what would you say?
Like 4,500 and maybe like 42, 4,300. Probably like 30, 31, maybe 32 touchdowns.
I thought you were going to say 40 touchdowns because you're like...
I thought he was too, yeah.
Did you see my face? I'm like, what the...
Yeah.
I'm like realistic here.
I was getting ready to jump.
So his stats last year were 39, 78, 27, and 13. So you're expecting an additional 300 plus yards, roughly 4 to 5 more touchdowns, and how many he had 13 interceptions last season. What would you think that's going to decrease?
I think it's like 8 or 9.
All right.
I'd give him high 20s. I'll give him 10 interceptions. I'd say maybe 28 to 29. He has an outside shot at 30, given, if he gets Debo back quicker and, maybe if they're loading up to stop that run, it's going to give them avenues to pass a little bit more.
Obviously, I'm like Homer here. Trent Taylor is going to be there. We're going to have a slot receiver. They have Kendrick Bourne. Like throwing off of a knee that you're playing with a brace changes things. And like
you're talking to the ultimate homer, so like I get it. But I mean, I don't know. I heard the gong. We should move on.
Gong. All right, so
gong show.
It is gong show. I don't have a gong. I need one. Because that would just be absolutely. That's like I need to waste money. So my quarterback faller, I've got Ryan Tannehill. So we're talking about a guy who, when he was in Miami, he's pretty much a career dink and dunk guy who, but he went from averaging 7 yards per attempt, in Miami, and all of a sudden averages 9.6 per attempt last year. And we're talking about a run game. Everything runs through the run game. They're going to be doing a lot of play action, with A.J. Brown. And I don't get me wrong, I love A.J. Brown, but I think he's pretty much the only guy in that offense that's really going to be worth a damn in the passing game. So, but, we talk about the play action. Ryan Tannehill only threw 84 pass attempts out of that play action and put up over 1,000 yards on those attempts. And just to compare, a guy like Jared Goff, who led all quarterbacks with 1,500 yards, threw 194 play action passes. So we're talking about a guy who that's some of that efficiency, the extreme efficiency that is hard to bank on year to year. So that's just one thing, but I just think that offense, as they get into more negative game scripts, I think it was a collection of a lot of good things happening at the same time, which led Tennessee to have the run they had last year. I think they're realistically more of an 9-7 team. Granted, they have a good defense. I just don't see the offense keeping up the pace that they did and keeping up the efficiency that they did. So I don't really. Oh, come on, what?
This is some hot takes, man. An 8 or 9 team win. They went into Foxborough and beat the Patriots, and they haven't really changed that much. The biggest issue is that they lost Jack Conklin. Outside of that, Tannehill, yeah, he's going to regress, but if you're going to say he's going to regress, so are lots of other quarterbacks. You know who isn't going to regress? The other quarterbacks who do tend to progress. Like there's a world where that happens. There's Adam Humphries there. There's Jonnu, who we're going to talk about later. There's A.J. Brown. I can't even think who their other wide receivers are. I'm totally blanking on it.
Corey Davis,
and then the other guy. But
Raymond.
Raymond.
It's like Khalif Raymond,
yeah,
I think.
That's exactly what I was trying to think of. And then there's reports that like Henry started to catch some passes. If Henry catches a few passes, that's the type of stuff that it just
13 to 16.
And then your boy, your most owned player in all of your leagues is Darrington Evans. And yet here you are, and he's going to be a pass catching back. And if they're going to run a little bit less and then have him catching more passes, plus Tannehill has his legs. My actual question for this, I'm only really upset about the 8 to 9 win team thing. Everything else, I think it fits.
Put the bet. Let's go.
Why is he a faller? Like everything that you just said did not change from a month ago. So is it just you just kind of thought about it more and you feel lower? I'm not. That's what I'm confused on.
I've thought about it more, and I think a lot of people have pumped up the Titans offense as somebody that can, that's gonna be continuing that efficiency into this year. And I don't see them as I see them as a fringe playoff team. And with that, you're not gonna see the success that they had. Ryan Tannehill was what, QB6, I believe, from when he came in week 10. I want to say he was at least in the top 8. That's not going to happen. I will bet the farm on that. Ryan Tannehill, he's a solid enough quarterback, and I would put him with, where do I have him? I have a QB 22. I have him below Minshew. I have him below Kirk Cousins. I have him above Mayfield. He's in that tier for me. I just don't see how he's going to continue.
Which team has a better record, the Texans or the Titans at the end of the season?
They're going to be even. It's going to be a bloodbath outside of the Colts.
Interesting. I was going to say at least.
I think the Colts are a 12-win team.
We'll see. We'll see. I would agree because I love the Colts, but I think Titans.
Jaguars are going to win. Be lucky to win 4
Totally.
games. I think it's going to be just an 8-9 win. Texans and Titans, take your pick. But I think the Colts are going to win that division with no sweat, honestly. But I love their defense. Their defense is
this is for a whole nother show, man. The AFC South is so confusing. All 3 of those teams are going to be so competitive.
The Forrest Buckner, man.
Division. There actually is not a 4th. They've been relegated to go play in the CFL, the Jags.
Yeah, Alabama's coming up.
All right.
I'm much like Kevin was with mine. I'm actually right in the middle. I am seeing both sides of this. I don't think that Tannehill repeats what he did last year to that degree, but I also don't think that he just outright sucks or anything. I think that we'll see maybe. I think by the end of the day, it's just going to even out. You're going to have those really high games that he gets on a hot streak and throws maybe 3 touchdowns, and but you're going to have games where he throws 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So it is going to be a matchup based, kind of like Wentz, what you were saying, there. But yeah, I mean, if I'll look to see who else is available when it comes, to picking a QB2. If Tannehill's there, but there's a handful of others, I'm not going to pull the trigger on Tannehill immediately. I'll just say that.
Remember, he gets 400 yards on the ground.
I'm just side-eyeing you, Gary.
400 yards on the ground makes a huge difference when it comes to fantasy.
No, I agree. I mean,
we have officially blurred the lines between real life, between NFL and fantasy over the course of this conversation. But I didn't really think I was going to be such a contentious argument. My apologies.
I am interested, Kevin. I am interested in your rankings though, there, because you said that you would put him after Minshew and Cousins, but before Mayfield.
I have him
at 23.
I have Baker at 23. I have Tannehill at 22. I have Cousins, Minshew, Burrow, Goff, and Garoppolo ahead of him.
Minshew should probably get bumped up now.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't done any adjustments other than Fournette and Rager, but yeah, Minshew's probably coming up. Wow. He's in that. They're all in the same tier. Garoppolo's at the head of that tier. I'm probably going to put him into the teens.
So, see, I would take Baker before Garoppolo.
Yeah, I think most people would.
Not me.
Yeah, I think most people would.
I just wanted to make sure I heard you right. I mean, that was an interesting ranking to me.
Kevin's rankings, fightingchancefantasy.com. Check them out. They're tiered. You can look by all standard, half point, and for PPR. They're good. I use them to draft.
Gary,
one hell of a promo. Wow.
I like that.
You got to follow that up with a woo
guy.
I might disagree with your Titans takes, but I still think you're a Titan of the industry. Ooh. All right. We're talking about Minshew, so I'm gonna keep us moving on to running backs and Q news drop. So Leonard Fournette obviously was cut this morning. I think I woke up at 6:30 or 7, and part of me was like, "Is there a possibility that he doesn't know this? He does have a newborn."
I bid on that for a second. I had him I'm waiting for the laugh. All right, we got it. All right.
So the reason I have him as a faller isn't because he was cut per se, because he will get signed somewhere else. It's the fact that there is 9 days before the camp, barring injury. Is there a backfield where he comes in and he is the man, where he pretty much was a lock for 275 to 300 plus touches, right? Everyone was like, the reason we're going to buy in on him is because they will run him into the ground. Literally don't care if his leg falls off. We will just keep running him. Kevin.
I've got a backfield that I think Leonard Fournette could absolutely just smash in. Okay. The Jacksonville Jaguars need a running back really bad.
I don't know if they do. Dude, this could be addition by subtraction. Allow it to be. I think I may have heard that on the Ballers, but I was feeling the same way. Allow Chris Thompson to do his thing. You have no idea what these other 3 guys could do with Armstead. Ozebo, if I'm saying that right, and James Robinson was undrafted free agent. That
he was a beast. I saw him play live. He played for Illinois State. FCS playoffs. Me and Aaron went to. It was at the Fargo Dome. NDSU played Illinois State, and that was, I believe, that ended as I think it was 6-0. It was a low scoring game, but he was the best player on that field, and Trey Lance was on the same field. So James Robinson is a great dynasty stash. He looked really good, and he could be a dark horse for the Jaguars.
Completely. It's my concern about spending up on Armstead. I was just looking at that in the league and was like, I don't know if I want to spend because these other two guys, even Ozebo, like he's a big dude. Anyway, back to Fournette specifically. I just, even if he goes to the Rams or something that's like a better offense, you are 100% in a less than 50% portion of a committee. I think he's probably looking at 35-40% ceiling in terms of not even just touches, but probably snaps even. So we'll see what happens, but I don't know. I think everybody's fading him and no idea what to do. I've seen the craziest trades. I saw like Fournette for John Ross in a second was like a trade that occurred in one of my leagues, and I was just like, wow. I don't feel like it was off. Like it sounded right. I don't know. It's nuts.
Petey, what do you think?
I think that if we do see him on a team, it's going to involve some weird three-way, like they trade away a player to, the Jaguars maybe. I don't know. I'm just throwing a team out there, but like it's going to take a team to move a guy that they already have for whatever reason. Which I mean, I heard this in the Twitterverse earlier, and it got me thinking. Kamara's having those contract. He's not showing up to practice and things like that. Do they move him and bring in the LSU boy to NOLA? I mean, it's a story. It's a Cinderella story type thing. And I don't know. Kamara goes to Jacksonville. Who knows? But I think that's the only way we're going to see him go anywhere. I mean, honestly, I think that Devonta Freeman could find a team faster than Leonard Fournette could at this point.
Now, I thought about this for a while today, and I just want to add one more little piece of context about Ryquell Armstead. He just went at 802 in this best ball that I'm doing. Wow. So the reaction, the knee-jerk reaction is real for Armstead. He just went over Gesicki and Kerryon Johnson and Chase Edmonds. So that's kind of where that's in. But hear me out. I don't think there's a spot where he's going to just run into 17, 18 carries. Yeah. But he can be an easy complement on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Williams, they like him.
I don't. Those guys, I mean, if you're bringing in a Fournette, you're talking about draft capital I think Darrell Williams was undrafted. I mean, they can just jettison Darwin Thompson, but they have all these guys, but I don't mind Fournette there. And that's a spot where he could reclaim some value if they're with CEH as a complement. I also thought about another spot where maybe they're having some injury issues is Detroit. That could be a spot too. There's always those options like Philadelphia, or there's the
Bears. Everyone's talking about the Bears.
Yeah, that too.
I still think he goes to the Jets. I think that Gase is going to try and trade Bell and bring in Fournette.
That is the most Jets thing.
They 1-2 punch with Gore and him. Like I actually believe this.
And I will read the beat writers. I will read Manish Mehta, his on Twitter, talking about how the Fournette is going to be the life-saving measure for the Jets and Adam Gase tomorrow in the Post. Will that happen? Maybe, probably not. But so he's not going to run into super large amount of carries, but I think he's going to be relevant somewhere in 2020. It's just really a matter of our team's going to, bite on it. Are they going to maybe prioritize Devonta Freeman over Fournette? That should really tell you where his standing is right now. Because remember, no team really had to trade for him. No team was going to trade anything for him. They knew the Jacksonville was going to try to find a place for him, and if not, cut him. It's read the tea leaves, because they were everywhere. We pretty much saw this coming. It was going to happen at some point. I think we talked about it. I was trying to find. I swore I tweeted it, but I guess I didn't. And maybe we just talked about Fournette possibly getting cut. So yeah, it is what it is. But Fournette, we'll see him somewhere down the line in 2020.
Yep. All right, Kevin. Actually, Petey. We'll go with Petey. Since Kevin has finished talking.
Okay. I'm going to go with Miles Sanders back to the Eagles. Basically for the same reason you were fading Wentz, the offensive line injuries with Dillard and Brooks. Yep. And Sanders with the hammy injury himself. We're seeing a lot of soft tissue injuries. This offseason with the limited practice and OTAs and everything like that. If I'm in that first round, 6th, 7th, 8th pick or something, and Sanders is there, I'm going to pass on him. If he comes back to me in like a 12-teamer and I'm looking at, the 15th, 16th pick, somewhere that my math is off, I'm sure, but maybe I'll consider it then if he's still there. But I'm going to be hesitant to pull the trigger on Sanders right now.
Can I ask you this or that? Miles Sanders or Kenyon Drake?
Drake.
Deep thought.
Miles.
I really did. That was a tough one.
They're going to the same spot. Sanders or Chubb?
Chubb.
Sanders or Aaron Jones?
Jones.
Sanders or Eckler?
Eckler.
Okay, so you just faded Sanders on all of those, right? I might have just had a very short memory, but
yeah. No, I would go with any one of those over Sanders right now.
He's going to fall to the middle to the late second, I think. If it's especially this weekend, he's going to be going at the back of the second because of this hamstring.
Gary, you think P would hate me if I booted him out of the stream right now? I'm kidding. I don't even know.
I'd go to bed.
Not with that caffeine.
I know, right?
Hey, but Kevin, you got to agree with him. Like, none of this is looking too great. It's Boston Scott, Dallas Goedert, and Zach Ertz are the biggest winners.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I just still think he's maybe he's going to pump up a little bit on the receiving end, but I think he's still a 15 plus touch guy now. I have him at, I believe, RB11. I would take Drake over him, and that's just because I've been on Drake for the entirety of the offseason. But I would take Sanders over Chubb. I would take Sanders over Eckler. I would take him over Jacobs. I would take him over Jones. I have Mixon over Sanders, which is something I've been thinking about too, and flip-flop them because I had Sanders in that third tier of running backs. But I still believe in Miles Sanders. Now, I will say too, he has had a bit of a hamstring injury that he has been working through. So we'll see if that's something that's going to affect him down the road. But I get it from both sides. I get the trepidation on Miles Sanders because we all just want to see it. We want to see them commit to a guy that they committed to at the end of last season. And then we saw Boston Scott, work in, but I think it speaks volumes. And I've said this a few times this offseason that if they really wanted to pare down the work of Miles Sanders, they would have acquired another running back by now, but they're going into this season with those two. And I don't even know who the third guy is. As a Corey Clement, who knows, but they're not going to be getting that work. It's going to be those two, Scott in a complimentary role. And I'm confident in the work that Sanders is going to get. They still have elite pieces on that offensive line, so I'm not totally just fading the line, even though they have lost quality pieces. I mean, Dillard has, first round pedigree, but he hasn't proven a lot in the league yet. Brandon Brooks is an all-pro guard. So that's certainly a big blow, but then they've got certainly Lane Johnson. they've got Sumalu as the other guard with Peters. They've got guys there that have played together and have continuity together. So I think it's not as big of a fade for me with the offensive line as a lot of people make it out to be. I'm still on Sanders as a fringe top 10 running back.
Yeah.
And a fringe rosterable running back is my fade, because he has really fallen big time, and that is Sony Michel. He's not going to be involved in the passing game. I think that's not a hot take. I mean, but the opportunity for more offensive upside as far as Sony Michel goes is pretty much cut off by Cam Newton being there and taking a lot of the goal line equity there. So without that, and then you've seen the Patriots' preference for guys like James White, guys like Damian Harris, who is really rising up as a second-year guy, who's looking to figure in a lot more this year. Rex Burkhead never goes away. They signed Lamar Miller. So right there's 4 running backs, and then you have Sony Michel, and it's hard for a guy that has similar knee issues to a Todd Gurley. I believe it's bone on bone going together. It's a degenerative knee issue that he has.
The Georgia thing.
Yeah, exactly. So you're talking all of that competition there. I feel like he's the odd man out. I've seen him go undrafted, in 18-team leagues. Just people are scared of him, and rightly so. I just don't see any upside. I think the best we saw of Sony Michel was the playoffs in 2018, where he just went on that tear. Sony Michel won me the ball blast playoff challenge basically by himself.
Yes. That was a crazy game.
That was, well, yeah, 2-3 of his games up into the Super Bowl. I mean, he had 2 and 3 touchdowns, something crazy like that. Like, he was awesome. He was just, that was the best we'll likely see out of Sony Michel. I mean, if they cut him, or if who's going out to pick him up?
Yeah. Right.
I agree. I'm not saying this as a Bills fan who hates the Patriots. I'm just saying this as someone who basically just doesn't trust the Patriots backfield in any way. In all of my leagues so far this season, which I'm pretty sure I'm in the double digits now, I have 1 share of James White that I took. It was actually a recent draft that I did just this past week. And it was one of those moments where it got to me in the draft, and he was there, and I said, you know what, screw it, why not? And I took him, but I took him as my RB 3 or 4. Definitely not someone that I'm relying on. If I need him during bye weeks and stuff, I just plug him in and hope that it hits. But
yeah, it's a perfect floor play.
Patriot running backs, you never know which one is going to go. I mean, Brandon Bolden was scoring, touchdowns last year. It's like, come on. So,
right.
It depends where I'm looking at Sony Michel and what my needs are at that time. But I can name numerous backs I would take before him. So.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page. He went in the 15th of a draft that just finished this past weekend, and it was people that I thought were pretty sharp. So I don't know. I don't even know if it's going to be Damian or not, or if it's just going to be, this is one of those, going to be a fun offense to watch, fun team to watch, just to see what they're able to do with Cam and with Bill. But other than Edelman, Cam also, I guess, I'm not really touching anybody on that offense.
Dalton Keene. Just saying.
I actually have him on a roster for some reason.
Dalton Keene's probably going to start week 1, man. Over Asiasi.
Asiasi? No.
You think he'll start over Asiasi?
That's the scuttlebutt right now.
That's nuts. Well, hey. Somehow
that's the scuttlebutt about the S-man. Sorry, I had to do it.
I love Kramer.
All right. Moving on to wide receivers. So we talked a lot last week about Terry McLaurin, and PD kind of slammed him. So I thought we would give Kevin a little bit of time to quickly just, say your piece. I think you might have had some other stuff, and we'll go from there.
About Terry McLaurin and how much I love the dude.
Somehow we did the one faller last week. Now we're doing the one riser.
I mean, God, where do I start? I mean, we're talking about an alpha who has a rapport with Dwayne Haskins, who right now, who else is getting targets in that offense outside of Steven Sims? And Dontrell Inman is going to be starting on the other side of McLaurin. So I don't know what coverage is he pulling. So say what you want, but I think McLaurin is certainly talented enough to be able to win despite if they're going to put a bracket on him, whatever they want to do. So I think he's going to be getting an elite target share. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he gets over a 25% target share in that offense. I really don't think it's out of the possibility. And I think we're going to be looking at a guy that when all is said and done, when I look at the upside of guys that are going in that tier, so that wide receiver tier of like DJ Chark, Cortland Sutton, Terry McLaurin, those are guys that I can envision next year, they're third round guys. And I'm like, and I'm fine with that. I'm like, okay, I have no problem taking them in the, the high teens. I mean, I'm already fine with taking Terry McLaurin, as high as like wide receiver 15 if I have to. I think I actually just did that in a best ball, not gonna lie. But no, I think the 25% target share, I think just the opportunity he's going to get in that offense, knowing that they're going to be behind in a lot of games, just absolutely force feeding the guy. I think he's got just a stable wide receiver 2 floor with opportunity to come up on that.
We'll have to see.
For the record, I would take both Chark and Sutton over McLaurin. So when you mention those names in that order, just so happened that's exactly how I would look at them. I don't know. I don't like anything about the Washington football team right now, and I would just I'll see better options in my opinion than Terry McLaurin at this point.
I get it. It's to each their own.
Yeah. I could be wrong, but you know what? That's my
I
take.
guarantee you, I will be wrong on so many things this year.
No, it's okay to be wrong. Just as long, just stick to your guns. That's how. If I'm going to go down, I'll go down swinging. You're
going to be that number one ECR for Fantasy Pros.
That's a lot of competition. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what though? When I got into that in week 3 last year, so I wasn't in the actual competition, but I could see where I fell, and I destroyed in wide receivers almost every. I was bad on quarterbacks and tight ends, but I was good on running backs and receivers. So it's cool. where it counts.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of, let's get into your wide receiver that you're fading.
Mine?
Yeah.
So I'm going with a guy that I just he's been tumbling for me in rankings. He's going in the same spot as like a Tyler Boyd and Stephon Diggs and Keenan Allen. I have him at wide receiver 35 below Julian Edelman and Jarvis Landry, T.Y. Hilton. So we're talking about a guy, T.Y. Hilton. He's 31 years old, coming off an injury-plagued season. And now he's got Phillip Rivers throwing him the ball. It's the first red flag to me is that he showed up to camp with a non-football hamstring injury. So that was the first red flag for me. It's going to be a big adjustment for him as a guy who is undersized playing on the perimeter, because Phillip Rivers has never really had that perimeter undersized target. He's always had skyscrapers. He's always had Vincent Jackson, Malcolm Floyd, guys like that, Mike Williams. So now he's got to adjust himself playing with a guy like T.Y. Hilton if he's going to see the field, or if he's going to be on the field being healthy. So at the 6th round, when I'm seeing guys like Will Fuller and Marquise Brown with just absolute upside, I don't see anywhere close to the upside of even like a Tyler Boyd, who is a floor play, but you're talking about a guy like Joe Burrow that throws just peppers the slot. He did it at LSU last year, and now he's got Tyler Boyd with the possibility of, if AJ Green misses time, that guy's going to be a target monster. So the guys around him, I'm not touching T.Y. Hilton. I'd rather have Julian Edelman over him, who I know, is a safe 100 target guy. I don't think we can say that anymore about T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah. I don't know, man. 35 sounds really low. Then I'm actually looking at the ADP on Fantasy Football Calculator, and I don't know. It doesn't seem quite that crazy. It's just because there's just that massive, massive tier of players that are in like the late 20s into the 30s. But yeah, I mean, Jarvis Landry actually feels like probably a relatively solid comp for it to be going right around. There seems to be a drop off after that, but like Brandon Cooks, would you rather have Brandon Cooks or T.Y. Hilton?
Just because I don't like the fact that he's one concussion away, I would take T.Y. Hilton, but you can make a case for it. So I like him over I have him over Marvin Jones. I have him over Deontay Johnson. I have him over Crowder. I have to do some adjustments because I think I'm going to move CeeDee Lamb up more. But that glut of wide receivers after like Michael Gallup with Boyd and Diggs, Allen, Brown, AJ Green, Fuller, Christian Kirk, who I have higher than him. All those guys have just massive upside and floor baked in too. And I just can't see it with T.Y. Hilton. I mean, talk me into him if you guys disagree. I can't see it anywhere.
I don't disagree because of the health. Christian Kirk feels like a stretch to put a wide receiver 2 over the wide receiver 1, but I don't know. To me, it comes down to health. If Hilton's there for 16 games, and he tends to be an Iron Man and plays through a lot of stuff, I think he will outproduce the 35. But if he's going to get banged up, like you said, the hamstring already, then it's an entirely different thing. But I don't know. That offense just confuses me. I was so high on the Colts going into the offseason, and I don't have any idea how I feel about them right now. Everything just feels all over the place, and Phillip Rivers is just so old and really felt like he lost a huge, I want to say lost a step, but like lost a throw towards the end of the season. His arm strength just seemed to go down. So I don't really know what to do now. Petey, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I'm wondering if the Colts kind of dial back on, the targets for TY just to keep him healthy.
Yeah.
They don't push, they don't force feed him. Maybe he's not even out there for as many reps. Just so he does have a bit more longevity, or at least a chance at longevity being on the field. But with Jonathan Taylor, Phillip Rivers loves his tight end. So Jack Doyle, Jack Doyle actually got bumped up for me.
Yeah.
And I was able to take him, I think, as my tight end 1, but fairly late in Scott Fishbowl. And I'm happy with it. I'm perfectly content with Jack Doyle as long as he can stay healthy too. So as far as TY, again, I'm going to look to see what my other options are at that point, whatever point I may be when looking at a wide receiver. And I'll kick the tires, see what else is around, maybe reach at a different position, and maybe running back or something like that. But yeah, I'm not going to be trigger happy on TY.
Yeah.
And another thing too is that you look at a guy like T.Y. Hilton, and I would say he's not completely dependent on volume, but he is, I'd say he's heavier than a lot of other guys needing the volume. And you're talking about an offense where they're predicated on using that offensive line and running the ball with Mack and Taylor, and then Rivers throwing short, throwing shorter to guys like Doyle, to Nyheim Hines, and then, he's got a Vincent Jackson-esque clone in Michael Pittman that he can throw deep shots to. I just don't know if that's going to be T.Y. Hilton's game. It used to be. I mean, just can't see it, but I just don't think that you can get T.Y. Hilton 6-7 targets and expect, him to be a fantasy relevant player each and every week. He's gonna need that double digit, and I just don't see it in this offense, especially with all of those other targets and the propensity of Rivers to throw shorter.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the guys that I'm very interested to see, him and AJ Green, what actually happens to them this season. And it's just we've already seen them like they're on their downslope now. So, so going kind of to the opposite end, to a player that has been kind of on top of the game for a while, even if it's boom or bust, and that's Amari Cooper. He's falling for me. I think mostly this isn't as much about Amari being bad as it is about CeeDee Lamb and about Gallup, who's been rising, and FF Intervention, who's actually here in the chat right now. When we had him on, he made a really good point. I think that Amari is probably going to have the hardest cornerback matchups of any number one wide receiver. And so for this 1 year, I definitely, I'm fading. Not fading, he's falling, and I actually own him in a couple spots, and then now I'm just unsure of what to do. And I don't know, he's still going to be a good asset and whatnot, but with the other guys that are going around him, I find myself I find myself just skipping him in a lot of drafts. So Amari right now is sandwiched between Juju and Kupp, and then afterwards comes Woods, who I love, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, DJ Chark, Tyler Lockett. At that point, probably going to be taking Woods, and Amari ends up getting taken, or I might even be taking one of those, 4th, 5th round running backs kind of there if Amari really seems to be the only option, because I actually like the guys. I can't say I like them more, but I like the value of like Lockett around later. To me, I would much rather have. So I do expect that he's going to have games that are going to cripple opponents, because he's going to go off and have like 202 or 3 touchdowns as he did last year, whatever it was. But on the flip side, I'm worried that he's going to have a fair enough of 1 for 8s, which he also had last year. So
I haven't been going out and getting multiple shares of him in any way. In fact, I may only have 1. No, I agree. With CeeDee Lamb added to that offense, you still have Zeke is obviously there. He's going to be getting touches, and as far as goal line touchdowns, Prescott runs it in as well. So there's a lot of hands in that cookie jar in the Cowboys offense. But yeah, I mean, if I'm sitting there and it's Cooper and Lockett, Metcalf is in there, DJ Chark, yeah, I could be inclined to take one of the others. But I get it if he's being taken. Like if I'm at that spot and I took Lockett and then the very next pick was Amari Cooper, okay, I get it. It's just I think it gets to a personal preference. People have seen what he's done, what he's capable of, and they're used to that name recognition. It's almost like I want him to go early so that I don't, it's so that I don't have to think about it, and then there's somebody else there that wasn't taken at that time that I can put more consideration into, because then, like you were saying, around later I can get Michael Gallup and probably get just as good as production as I would have gotten with Cooper around earlier. So, I'm going to fade him, but I hope you take him early.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's happening too, because you see Amari Cooper go in that Juju and Mike Evans range, and I'm never going to take Cooper over those guys. So he would always go, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I have 0 shares of Amari Cooper, and it's not because I hate the guy. I don't hate him. I just when I'm looking at receivers in that tier, he's always at the bottom, and someone always reaches for him. So you know what? I'm perfectly fine with that. Petey's got hit the nail right on the head. You take him, because I'm not going to, because likely he's going to be gone when I want to think about maybe Amari Cooper will fit here, but then you've got all those other receivers. But one more thing too, Michael Gallup averaged more targets per game than Amari Cooper last year. So there's really no tiers within the Cowboys offense. I think just because of the price point with Gallup, I am way more inclined to take him there versus Amari in the third. I mean, and then you got CeeDee Lamb too, but I think Amari's price point is a bit out of whack for me. Lamb and Gallup, perfectly fine with it. And it's wild because of how lofty expectations we're putting on that Dallas Cowboys offense. And you've got two targets that really you want guys that play with other talented guys, but yet you're pricing them at such a discount. It kind of just blows my mind a little bit. So
I'm going to jump as into tight ends here because I actually feel very similar about Cooper as I do about my tight end that has been falling, and I think he'll be okay, but I just find myself not taking him anymore, and that's Darren Waller. Darren Waller last year, I think he had 90 receptions, over 1,000 yards, not a lot of touchdowns, and so a lot of people were like, oh, his touchdowns will come up. Well, Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs, were brought in as rookies, and then Hunter Renfrow is going to have another year under his belt. And then whatever you want to say about Tyrell Williams, who I don't know how much they'll even get out of him because of his shoulder. They're then also going to start hopefully passing a little bit more to Josh Jacobs. I think just all of this is the Raiders are going to be a better offense. The other pieces are coming along strong. And Bryan Edwards, who is, I think, my most owned fantasy player going into the season, it sounds like he's just getting so much hype and he's going to be there. And I see that Waller is not going to hit 1,000. He'll get closer to like 700 or 800 yards, but he'll get an extra few touchdowns just because he's a big guy that has Derek Carr's trust. So all in all, like to me, I think right now he's going as the tight end 5. I feel like I would rather have Hayden Hurst over him. I'd rather have Evan Ingram over him. And probably when push comes to shove, I'm not sure about Hunter Henry. They're probably similar minded for me just because Henry has more touchdowns. And then it comes down to like Tyler Higbee. Probably is going to be the other person that I'd be debating on, but definitely Hurst and Ingram would be above Waller. So for me, that makes him tight end 7. It's not a huge drop by any means, but I think just everyone else is seeming to show up on the offense, similar to Amari Cooper. I just worry that he's not going to be able to get back to where he was before with his targets and yardage.
Who do you think ends up with the most targets in the Raiders offense by the end of the season?
Most targets, probably Darren Waller.
It's Waller.
Okay.
But that's because I think everybody goes down and it gets diffused across the offense.
Right. I like Waller. I like where he's going. I have not been able to take him where he's at, just for where I end up landing in the draft. But I would take him above Higbee. I would take him above Hurst. I would take him above Hooper. Really. All right, Gary, would you take Waller or Ingram? Evan Ingram?
Oh, Ingram, without a doubt. I love Ingram this year.
All right, Waller or Hunter Henry?
Hunter Henry's a difficult one because I think I'm nervous about the quarterback play, but I think Henry has higher touchdown upside, especially with Mike Williams going to be out for a bit.
Okay.
Waller on both.
Yeah. Trust me, Waller is like my other, like I had Aaron Jones last year and I had Darren Waller. In all my main leagues, Darren Waller was on my roster. I got him super late. Loved it. It was fantastic. But those players are fantastic until all of a sudden you're spending, a 5th, 6th round, 7th, whatever 6th round pick it is. And I don't know. I would rather either spend up on an Ertz or wait again and take a Gesicki.
Right. It's a way different ball game when you're taking a guy in the 14th, versus having to spend 5th round capital where you could be taking a Michael Gallup or, it's a tough proposition. I get it, but I'm still on Darren Waller. I know the ballyhoo with Bryan Edwards being the X there. And then we've got Henry Ruggs is going to play in the slot and move around. But I think just the offense is going to run through. It's going to run through mainly Jacobs, and then it's going to run through Waller in the pass game. I just think that while Ruggs is an absolutely just dynamic player that he's going to be the future of that offense. Don't get me wrong. I just think for right now, I think it's Darren Waller's team. As far as targets, I think he's going to just have a solid target share in that offense. I don't think he's going to get over 1,000 yards receiving. I think he had 1,100 last year. But I think there's still a lot of meat on the bone for him to get at least 110 targets, maybe pull off 80 to 85 catches, 900 yards, maybe more. That's actually prognosticating a really lousy yards per target or yards per catch, but I think he's still got a pretty good floor. Certainly after those top four, it's as much as I love Evan Engram, it's hard to bank on him playing any more than like 11 or 12 games. I think, Waller is a bit safer bet in that regard. So I have him close to Ertz, but I would still take Ertz over Waller.
Fair enough. All right. Petey. Who's yours?
Well, a guy that I briefly mentioned, Tyler Higbee. I'm fading. I really didn't understand why everyone was so in on him early this summer. He had that short span of production kind of towards the end of the season last year. He finished with 764 and 3 touchdowns, which, I mean, I like the yardage. 3 touchdowns, okay, nothing's jumping off the page to me. But I saw him going, in the Waller and Evan Engram range, and I didn't really get that. With the drafting of Cam Akers, and now especially with Henderson's injury and Malcolm Brown basically being a non-factor, I think they're going to pound the rock with Akers even behind that terrible, terrible offensive line. As we discussed in the last show, he had a bad offensive line in Florida State and did just fine. So I'm more excited, and I would invest. If I'm going to invest in that offense, it's going to be either Robert Woods or Cam Akers. And as of right now, I have the most of Cam Akers. But Higbee, if I'm sitting there and it's, round 6, even round 7, I'll see who else is there.
Gary, I'm waiting for you, buddy.
I mean,
were you just so mesmerized by?
No, I mean, Higbee is just like, I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. I think earlier I may have said I'm debating on Higbee with Waller. I would agree that I would go Waller over Higbee, so I do take that back. I do see that there's upside based off of what he did last year, but I don't know. I think it's a Cooper Woods show, and it'll be Everett and Higbee kind of just splitting it and eating into each other. So I don't know if I own a single share of Higbee so far outside of weird tight end premium like eliminators, FC eliminators and stuff. So yeah, I definitely agree. And I was someone that was higher, so he would definitely fit in the whole falling category for me too.
I get it. And it's easy to look at the end of last year where he had, 522 yards and 2 touchdowns over those 5 games. He had a absolutely historic end of last season. I don't think anybody's expecting him to just go and do that again. He's not going to do that in 2020, but he's going to get every opportunity to at least build more equity and become a safer option. Now, Gerald Everett, he's going to get a little bit of run, but I don't think that because of the 12 personnel and them prioritizing keeping Johnny Munt in the block, and it's a boon for the run and the pass. Johnny Munt is my blocking tight end du jour. Okay.
I don't know, man. I've heard other people talking about that and how at the time it was, I can't remember who said it, so I apologize, but that
it was Dwayne McFarland, actually.
No, it wasn't that.
But they're going to keep when they're running and passing, they're going to be keeping him in there. I don't think Everett's going to get a lot of work. They drafted Bryson Hopkins to be that replacement for Everett because Everett's on his last year of his contract. I just don't see Higbee giving up a lot of that snap share or equity on the field. I think that he is going to be a solid top 7 to 8 tight end. I think that he is going to be, I don't know if he's going to have the red zone prowess that he showed. I think Woods is going to cut into both him and Kupp's red zone work, but I think Higbee is going to be a very startable, very usable tight end this year. I think that's completely fair to assume, given the personnel moves they made. That's if they keep on using the 12 personnel like they did at the end of last year. If they keep up going to that, then great. If they're using more 11 looks, then you could see a bit more of Gerald Everett. But they're not going to just play 12 personnel. But I think you're going to see Higbee a hell of a lot more than you're going to see Gerald Everett.
Yeah.
Higbee or Hooper?
Higbee
or Higbee or Gesicki?
Gesicki. Sorry.
I
just did that. I would probably
Higbee or Engram.
It's just a silly question.
Okay. I knew the answer. I just wanted to hear it.
He wanted to make sure, you wanted to see if we're going to slip.
I did slip. I said Gesicki, and then I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like it's silly to say someone that's so much further down rankings, but at the same time, like, no, I'll go with Gesicki. Also, I hate the Rams, but I love Woods and Kupp.
Well, you want to know who I don't love?
Who?
Jonnu Smith. And it's funny because this is after doing a bit more research on Jonnu Smith and just the inner stats that and metrics, because I'm going to lay this out for people. So Jonnu Smith, this is all, by the way, a lot of research was done too by Fantasy Alarm's Andrew Cooper, the tight end guy, doing a lot of work over there. And we've been in a lot of discussions about Jonnu Smith and tight ends of his ilk. So last year, Jonnu Smith played 701 snaps, which 14th in the league. He only ran 240 routes of those 701 snaps. It's 33rd in the league. So basically what we're looking at with Jonnu Smith is that his blocking usage is on par with Nick Boyle and Jeff Hireman. I mean, you look at the guy, he's thick, but they want to keep him in to block. They don't, this isn't a team that, he blocked on 22% over, or it's almost 23% of pass plays. Nick Boyle blocked on 19.4% of them. He blocked on more percentage than Hireman, who was at 21%. And now people want to say, it's, now that Delaney Walker is gone, he's the tight end one. He's just going to slip in, take that spot, and, all systems go. But, Delaney's been gone for almost 2 years. He was he played one game, played a few games last year and one game the year before, I believe. When he was playing with Delaney Walker, he blocked on 24% of pass plays. In the 9 without him, he still kept that up about 22%. So, he's going to block on 1 of every 4 plays, but yet we're going to try to prognosticate him to a Mark Andrews route, running routes and catching passes. Mark Andrews only played 457 snaps, but he ran almost 300 routes. He blocked on a total of four pass plays. Mark Andrews did. So this is my argument with Jonnu Smith, is that you are, as much as we love the athletic profile, he's going to be out there blocking more often than he is running routes. I don't, with how low the volume it is going to be in Tennessee with passing the ball, I just do not. They're looking for that second option outside of AJ Brown, and with this, I just do not think it's Jonnu Smith. I think it's going to be not quite Green Bay, where you've got Devontae Adams, and then you have Aaron Jones, but then you just have a mix of everybody else. But who knows? It could be like that, because you could see maybe Corey Davis with 75 to 80 targets, and then a smattering of Darrington Evans and Adam Humphries and Anthony Firks or whoever else you want to throw out there that's going to be running routes at tight end because Jonnu Smith is not going to be running them as much as people think.
Yeah.
It's eye-opening to me because
all of it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't dispute facts. I was one that was willing to wait on tight end until I got to the range and taking Jonnu Smith. But yeah, after that, I may have to reevaluate.
He will take weeks. Like that's the whole part of it, in my opinion. Like he will win you weeks, but if you don't pick the right week, you could be looking at like an actual 1 or a 2. If he doesn't pop off that one play, you're screwed.
Yep, you'll find yourself with a 2 catch for 14-yard line, and just damn it, I left Tyler Eifert and it's 6 for 60. On the waiver wire. There are a bunch of guys. I'm going to adjust this for Jonnu Smith because right now I have him below Ian Thomas. I have him right now. I'm looking at it, and that's kind of gross because I would take Jarwin over him. I would definitely take Greg Olsen over Jonnu Smith. I think I may take Dawson Knox. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah. Or my boy, who could be the tight end 1 in Green Bay, Robert Tonyan.
I thought you were say Sternberger.
Pretty sure that we're not going that far, but yeah.
The point could be made.
No.
Yeah, below Thomas. I assume he's below Fant for you.
Oh, I've got Fant in another tier. I've got Fant at 14.
Okay.
I've got Doyle at 16.
Ebron?
I've got him. I'd take Ebron over him. When I adjust my rankings, Ebron will be ahead of him. Okay. I think he'll be at the bottom of that because I've got him in the same tier right now. I've got Hooper, Irv Smith, Ian Thomas, Jarwin, Jonnu Smith, Jarwin, Smith, Ebron, Olsen, and then the last tier of like Rudolph, Sternberger, Knox, OJ Howard. I think I would take that whole tier that he's in with Olsen and Ebron. I'd take him over Jonnu.
I would bet you right now that OJ Howard finishes with more points than him.
Than Jonnu Smith?
Yeah. I think we should make that bet. We shouldn't, but I think I would put OJ Howard ahead of him. If you're going to say all this.
It's within the realms of possibility, absolutely.
OJ Howard's our tight end 1. I mean, I had Gronk on here before Darren Waller. I decided to switch him last minute because I feel like whatever. OJ Howard's our tight end 1. Gronk's going to be a red zone specialist. I don't see a world in which Gronk comes back to full amount of snaps and everything. I think that they'll bring him in specific situations. They already have. I mean, they have Scotty Miller, they have OJ Howard, they have Cameron Brate, they have all these people. Plus, they're going to have Leonard Fournette. I mean, from what everyone else is saying, like I just don't see a reason why you would need to have Gronk on the field. You don't need old reliable until you get to the spot where you want Tom to have his go-to. So, anyway.
I have one more thing. Tyler Eifert or Jonnu Smith?
After today's news, Eifert.
Will Dissly or Jonnu Smith? Because let's keep in mind, when Will Dissly's out there, dude's balling.
He's balling, but now that Olsen is there, is he going to be balling as much?
Probably on par with Jonnu Smith, honestly.
I am drafting Jonnu Smith over these guys.
I think I would take Jonnu over Dissly, but
probably roster each of them at some point.
It's like tough. I'm trying to find the line between, it's tough because the line is blurred with so many guys that you can make a case for. Like I could almost make a case about like Kyle Rudolph.
No, hold on. When we're talking about rankings going into the season, Jonnu is ahead of all of these people. He has one of the best athletic profiles for a tight end. You just put him there.
So does OJ Howard.
Hold on. But OJ Howard also has Brate and has Gronk there. So in terms of rankings, he definitely needs to be above these guys. But once we get into the season on a weekly output, which ones would you trust more? I would trust Eifert more for a weekly output. It just comes down to, are you looking for somebody to get you 5 points, or are you looking for the person that has the highest percentage to be Mark Andrews? none of those guys are going to be Mark Andrews. Jonnu has a chance to be Mark.
He does have a chance, and it's up to Arthur Smith to unlock the dude and maybe not let him block at a 25% clip. That's
sure, but that was last year. Like, who knows? Maybe that changes. So ultimately, you go with the person who has the most upside, at least from a drafting perspective, assuming it's not multiple tight ends and stuff. But you kick him to the curb if nothing happens week 1 or week 2, and you go with one of those other guys who's going to be, like you said, the 6 for 60 instead of the 1 for 6.
Yep.
So why not wait until the very end of your draft, spend all of your early picks on running backs and wide receivers, wait to get Jonnu as your number 1, wait even longer? Well, depending on how things go, I would have to look at ADP now that Fournette's gone, but kind of see where Eifert is going and have both of those guys as your 2 tight ends, able to see who's the better one out of the gate. I mean, is that something like in a redraft? And I'm not even saying dynasty just for this alone, but
in any league that's not tight end premium,
Eifert won't.
Yeah, Jonnu Smith in my 12 team is on waivers right now. I took Irv Smith just because I want to see what happens week 1. Right, but I already had a claim in for somebody else, and I was thinking about Jonnu, and I was like, no. And I was like, at worst, I'm just going to get Eifert later. And I literally, it was my last pick it was my 16th pick.
Okay, so even if even if you do just pick one tight end, say you pick Jonnu Smith and you leave the draft with just one tight end, and Eifert is sitting out there on waivers, then I mean, are you comfortable waiting on tight end in general just to roll with one of those 2 guys throughout the season?
So to me, it's
tough because I don't want to stream at the position.
After I'm waiting for Gesicki or Jarwin, and Jarwin's also available in this league that I'm talking about, and I'm just waiting to see who's going to hit. And so for me, the break point's Gesicki. If I miss out on Gesicki, my last pick will be a tight end, and I'll figure it out from there. And I'm comfortable streaming until I find someone. And I actually do think Eifert, as crazy as it probably sounds until recently, Eifert is somebody that eventually will not be a streamer. He will be someone that you plug and play, hoping to get 6 to 8 points.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, it's tough to find that line because there's a line where Jarwin I have him at 21. Is where I am comfortable only drafting him in a typical redraft. He is the line for me. And I take Ian Thomas. I take Irv Smith. I mean, I'm banging the drum for Irv Smith. I think with Justin Jefferson not having a great camp, I think he could backdoor into number 2 target. Possibly, you've got Cook there too, but a pass receiver, I should say, number 2. I'd say that's you can make the case, but over Jefferson, I'd say. Yeah.
My friends made fun of us for how long we talked about Irv Smith, and here we are talking about him again.
Well, next week we're going to start the Irv Smith podcast.
Irv Smith at the end, they were like, "We're leaving him for you. We're leaving." I was like, "I'm not going to take him. I'm not." Yeah, I'm probably going to take him. Like now that it's like round 16, I'm going to take him because I want to see what happens week 1 and 2. All right. Should we go out, let Petey get some sleep?
I suppose he's gonna be wired though. He's got that coffee, or are you feeling it?
I'm right in the median right now. Like I could probably go for another hour or so, or I could crash in 20 minutes. It could kind of go either way.
He's gonna go watch Memento and The Prestige.
I still need to watch that. Sorry.
So
I appreciate you back to back, Tweety. Yeah, Petey.
What's that?
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on back to back. You're the first person to do that.
I'll come on anytime you guys want me to.
All right.
It's
appreciate
an open,
it, buddy.
it's an open accepted invitation.
Well, it's mighty big of you, buddy. But so we didn't give you a proper introduction because everybody should know who you are. But we'll give you a proper outro here. Tell us where we can find all your stuff.
Well, you can find it at the website, fightingchancefantasy.com. I have all the links tweeted and on my homepage, so you don't have to type in that long name. Find me at Petey Stitz on Twitter, PETEYSTITZ. Is it showing right? Am I pointing under it? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, that's where you can find me for random football stuff and random other things as well. So hope you enjoy it.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much
sir.
for
Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. So next, or I was gonna say next week, but it's really in 2 days, Gary.
It is in 2 days.
We will be back on. I try to get a special guest to join our other guests that we have coming on. We have Jake Trowbridge coming on. We're gonna talk some breakouts a week before the NFL season. So that should be fun. I tried to get John Helmkamp on to come on, and it was just going to be a shit show, but he couldn't make it. So us two and Jake, it's going to be a lot of fun. And you know what? Along with Sam, I'm glad we could get another Packer fan in here because I'm sick of dealing with all the 49er fans that we've been bringing in with Mike Hoff and Ryan and all those other. So let's get some more Packer fans in here. That's what we need.
It's just still better about the ass kicking that you got twice last year.
Probably. You mother.
All right, guys.
All right, everybody. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for sticking with us. This has been Fighting Chance Live, and have a great night, everybody.
Yeah.